Okay, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You want to turn on your camera?
What?
Your camera is still off. Is it on?
Oh. Yeah, now it's
Okay.
on.
So, okay. So, good evening, everyone. And this is our last session on the forum on the request for the meaning of life. This is an extra because it's supposed to end last week, but since it has been organized so well, and so I Dr. Yeh to give another talk, and he has been very busy, but he kindly accepted the invitation. So today he's going to talk about becoming a meaning maker, and I'll briefly introduce him. I think everybody knows him very well now. He got his PhD degree in mathematics from University of Illinois. Then he taught at many universities. There's 5 of them here, and particularly University of Texas at Austin and the University of Maryland at College Park. He was the chair of the computer science department there and helped both departments to achieve top 10 national ranking in a short period of time. Then afterwards, he left the academia, and he and his wife, Priscilla, co-founded 2 software companies. And he also co-founded 2 professional societies to promote transdisciplinary education and research. He has been a consultant for many international big company, so very successful. Then in 2003, he and Priscilla decided to move into CDTB and became a long-term volunteer since then. He and Priscilla has been helping many people here within the city and also those who live outside. When people have questions, they always went to them and asked their advice. Sometimes the meeting can last to midnight, but they are very helpful. So we're very happy to have Dr. Yeh to talk. So I asked Dr. Yeh to start. Ray, please go ahead. You want to share your screen?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Jing. It's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to serve, to provide the opportunity for people to interact with a number of outstanding speakers during the series. It's indeed not an easy task because many people are very busy, and trying to get them together into one place is not easy. But we were lucky. We had the opportunity to listen to 13 speakers altogether during the last few weeks. And so Dr. Jing asked me to sort of summarize what the other speakers talk about, and as well as to share some of my own experience. So I hope I try to do a good job in both, but given the tremendous amount of material that's being talked about, it's very difficult to to share all of them. So I try my best. And then I try to look back into my life and try to share some of the stories in the quest for the meaning of life from my personal perspective. All right. All right, here are the 13 speakers that you have, many of you have listened. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of them and for taking the time to share with us their experiences and wisdom, as well as the we have translators into Chinese as well as Vietnamese during the last 7 weeks as well. And this evening, Dr. Yu Chen is the translator into Chinese. And I don't know who are the translators into Vietnamese, but I thank them, especially they don't want to expose their name, right? All right, so the last week, we heard two inspirational speakers, and Principal Zhenhong and Lily Yeh. And their story were extraordinary, just like others. All right, Lily was unsatisfied as an art professor, and she wants to find and the dustless world in the Song Dynasty, admired by the Song Dynasty artists. And so instead of going through an synchronicity, an opportunity present itself that she started working in the poorest community in northern Philadelphia. And since then, she has discovered that in the most broken places is where purity shows up. And she has been going around the world, helping people in all the different places to find that dustless world and bring people together to find new life. And Principal Zhenhong, on the other hand, was an educator. After she was associate professor at the university, then she went to Harvard. After came back, she looked at she found out Beijing has lots of children who are children of migrant workers who could not attend the Beijing school. And she just felt she has to do something. So start with a closed factory and reopen it, and under very, very difficult conditions that she opened the school, junior high, for those children. Despite the fact condition was severely restricted, but she held high vision, right? The vision she held for the children is that to be authentic leaders. So with that, over the last 15 years, the school has grown both in reputation and in actual offering. In fact, now the new campus is large, have new buildings, and but more importantly, children of white collar family have also decided to not attend the public school but attend the Zhenhong School, because the school offer high quality education and compared with the other public schools. And the fact that these white collar family come, so the tuition is a skill tuition. If your family has higher income, you pay higher. So this way you subsidize for some of the poor people. It's a phenomenal school now with 1,000 students, and all the teachers are very, work very hard, but all have their head held high. Great reputation with international attention. And then we had a discussion between Pastor Fua, or Dr. Xia and Dr. Moratenic. And Pei Xia, was a very successful professor, and he was a full professor at the University of Texas at Arlington when he heard a call from inside. All right. Then he decided to give up her professorship, full professor and prestigious and all that, enter a cemetery and become a pastor. He then went to Hong Kong to preach gospel, to help many people from overseas, especially Chinese students who went to overseas, come back to Hong Kong. And Professor Fua, Professor Morat, has shared with us the wisdom of his mother, and went on to be extremely successful, all right, in his profession. And then we had Professor Claire Brown and Dama Mesquin to exchange their views. Both are compassionate and deeply dedicated to the preservation of not only humankind and environment, all that. And so they shared a lot of interesting stories then. And Fua and Naveen shared extremely well each of their own path. And I'm going to share a story about Fua just shortly in particular, all right? And but some of the stuff will be summarized later on too. Then we have the Marilyn Schlitz and Rabbi David Barron, who both talk about a lot about compassion and about encountering death. All right, and then go back to our first session that the Reverend Hern Shu and Nippon shared their passion for making contribution to the world. All right, so we'll continue to mention a little bit, summarize later on. But I don't like to share particular story about Fua. Fua talk about total sharing. And you know that when we started Foreign, Fua was late for about 15, 20 minutes because he was driving back from Sao Paulo to his home, and the traffic just caught him, but also he had a special meeting with his mother. And he had, when they were sharing, they both cried a lot. It's a totally pouring out of what misunderstanding or understanding, whatever they had in life with each other. And for us, that during the session said, when I was with my mother today, we were both crying as we shared. I knew that I would have no regret when she passed away. Well, Fua's mother passed away a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks later, after Fua and had a total sharing with her. All right, and so this could be so as Fua said that he would have, both of them would have no regret because they have totally cleaned the slate. And that's why her mother probably afterward felt peaceful in leaving the world. And as I heard the Fua's message, I sent him a note. Oh, I sent him a poem by Rubin, by the poet, which says, "The bias are only for those who love with the eye, because for those who love with heart and soul, there's no such thing as separation." What a beautiful story that Fua can share. All right. Coming back, here's a quick summary of the advice from the foreign speakers. Is first one is listen to your heart, and the other one is almost everybody talk about is care for other people, compassion. One is care for other people's youngster, and the others, as Confucius have talked about, related by Reverend Herrera. The other is the notion of death makes life possible, shared by Rabbi Baron, Dr. Schlitz, and of course, Fua Soberno. And Miriam particularly talk about the 5 steps from I to we, right, in expanding our individual compassion. And she talked about intention, attention, reputation, guidance, surrender, all right. Surrender to a sense of appreciation and reverence, and have compassion for other people and the world or environment. In other words, surrender is not surrender in the usual sense, but is a higher degree of commitment, committing to a cause that will forever will go on. And the other thing that many people talk about, which we didn't bring out particularly, was to participate in the unfoldment of the universe, or what we call synchronicity, right? As coincidence and other things that examples people talk about. I'd like to also do a short sharing of Tamama Xingyong's journey, because I did not summarize it before. And Tamama Xingyong was born into a poor family, but he always wanted to help people. So he wanted to be a good student. So, although he studied physics and science, but because he wanted to help people, he also studied traditional Chinese medicine, Tai Chi Chuan, and Qigong. As by synchronicity, his Qigong teacher went into some kind of trouble. And while Xingyong was visiting his family in Los Angeles, all right, his Qigong master teacher asked him to specifically seek out Venerable Master Xuanhua when Tamama Xingyong visited Los Angeles. And because he thinks Venerable Master, the Qigong law teacher, thought that Venerable Master could help him. All right. As a consequence, Tamama Xingyong visited the monastery, our monastery in Los Angeles, and met with Venerable Master. Well, after that meeting, a short while after the meeting, he decided that he will leave home. And today, Tamama Xingyong is fully committed to propagate the Dharma by many of his tireless contributions, such as the formation of this forum and many others, because he has taken the time to help to facilitate all of the Sunday evening lectures. And he teaches precept class, which I took for the 3rd time now because I felt that by taking this class, it reminds me that all the time what I need to do. He also has a translation class among other many duties. So at least he is making meaning for other people, at least to me. So let me just begin to share some of the story that of my life as Dharma Master Jung suggested. First of all, I want to say it's not easy to be a meaning maker because we're all bounded by the self and collective limiting assumption. This diagram is a diagram that many years ago, I was given a seminar to a group of corporate managers. And I asked each of them to draw on a big piece of paper with color pen, who am I? And afterwards, I have all the pictures hang on the wall. And so we have art exhibit. And so this is one picture. A man was tied to a post. And then after we have the art exhibit and we have a discussion. And about 85% of the people said, I am also this person. Everyone is tied by something, all right? By the job, by the location, by the family, whatever, all right, is tied to something. And I call that self-limiting assumption, all right, because we are bounded not because we don't have to, not because we have to, but we are willing to accept it because it's more convenient. In the 70s, I was invited to be a fellow of the Fujitsu's Research Institute. So every year I went there for a month or so, and but they treat me very well because even I didn't go there, they paid me the whole year. All right. So, but one time I was visiting the Fujitsu's employment office, and on the whole 3 sides of the wall is a picture about how an employee coming in, starting from day 1 until his retirement. The picture is totally there, all right? And at that time, of course, in Japan, it's a lifetime employment. So I visited them, I thought, wow, how boring. I mean, your life is totally planned out for you. You don't have to do anything, all right? Then I want to remind you a quote by Professor William Dorsch. This is a difficult pronunciation. He's a professor at Yale, and he was doing admission and others. He observed the educational system. And here's a quote from him. He said, our educational system trains students to be excellent shift so they can jump high, all right? If you set the mark to be 5 feet, they'll jump. You set to be 7 feet, they'll jump. They know how to jump, but they don't know where to go. All right. This is his criticism of the current educational system. All right, because we are training people not to be sort of free thinkers, so to speak. All right. All right. With this, I want to, the remainder of the talk is to share a few of the stories over my long life, so to speak. I'm 84. I'm very grateful that so to recall a few stories that perhaps might be of useful to the audience here. This is me when I was 19. It's first year when in the States. I was studying at Chico State, here in California. The reason was I came to a school in Minnesota, but although I had a scholarship, it was too expensive. So I found Chico State was the cheapest university or I can find. And I remember the tuition was $90 a semester. So the next semester I transferred to Chico State. But during the summer, I want to work because my family provided just barely enough for me to pay the tuition and during the semester. And I need to also feel my obligation to pay back to them, my parents sometimes. But so during the summer, I had 2 jobs. I worked 5 days in a factory, 8 hours a day. Then I worked 7 days a week in a pizza shop. All right, this is not the real restaurant I work for, but I just copied down. 7 days a week, and so I was very tired all the time. But in the Pizza Hut, I was a dishwasher. And in the old days, I don't know what today is, but in the old days, it's pizza on a metal plate. And so the dishwasher, and of course, afterward, you have to clean up all the cheese that stick to the plate. Very tough job, especially after working all day already. All right, I worked 7 days there. Then there was an assistant chef, all right, who likes to sort of pick on me because I'm the lowest, say, in ranking in the Pizza Hut. So every time he came by me, he'll sort of pat on me and say something. So one day I said, "Hey, wait a minute. Why don't you get off my back?" All right. So he was amazed. I shouted back to him. So he said, "Wow, Ray, you don't like yourself. By the way, I see you outside after the work." Well, that was a big, tough challenge because that means he wants a fight. Well, he was somewhere around 170 pounds, taller than me. And I was at that time, because my work very hard, I was about 127 pounds, very weak. So anyway, after work, I went out. He was waiting there. I looked at him, and although I was prepared to fight, all right, on my left hand, I had a handful of pepper. And on my right hand, I had a can opener. But as we stare at each other, I recall that it does not make sense. It's not the purpose my parents sent me to the United States. It will be a disaster whether I want or he wants to fight. All right, the police probably will come and so forth. So I decided after we stare at each other for a while, I walked to my car and just leave. And he came over take out his belt and slept on the front of the car 3 times. Since that day, I could not sleep for a week because every time I slept, I dreamed that I was being whipped. And the question is, how do you get out of this situation? So afterwards, I decided I work more because we all have break time. Every hour, after working an hour, you can take 15 minutes break. And from that day on, from the next day on, I did not take any break. During the break, everybody sits for coffee or some Coke. I clean up the kitchen. I clean up everything. And then I also volunteer later on, a few days later, to the chef. Say, if you're a family man and he needs to come in on Saturday and Sunday to prepare for the dough, to make the sauce and so forth. So I told him, I said, if you teach me, I'd be happy to do it for you so you can have time with family. So he did, happily. But so guess what? On weekends, the boss also come in, all right? And this is the idea I want to have. To let the boss know that besides washing dishes, I also make pizza from A to Z. So one time, the reason we have assistant chef because the chef sometimes gets drunk, could not make it. So the assistant chef will take over. So one day, he didn't show up again. So the assistant chef just about ready to take over. And the boss say, wait a minute. I noticed that Ray also learned how to make pizza recently. So this evening, why don't we let Ray try? And so I did. And did a beautiful job. All right. And next day, when the chef came in, he was fired. And then assistant chef again was ready to take over, and the boss said, "We will be the chef." So I become this assistant chef boss. All right. And I know that if I want to have him fired, the boss will agree too. But in any event, I didn't do that. All right. And what I learned in this lesson is that even in the direst conditions, you still can find meaning. This is exactly what Frankl has said in his life, in his book about finding the meaning of life. In the Nazi concentration camp, he didn't have a shoe, all right? But he was able to survive because he has something he really wanted to do. And I have since told my children that when they were young, when they go out to work, I told them, any place you go, there are loose balls around. If you keep on picking up the loose ball, you'll be a great employee. All right. I'd like to share with you some of the meaning makers in my life. I have many great teachers, in particular, 3 of them. One of them will showing on the left-hand picture is my algebra teacher in junior high. When I was, second year junior high, and I flunked my algebra. And of course, if you didn't make it up, then I would not be able to go out to the high school. I was in the best high school in Taiwan. I think Taiwan Xingyong also attended the same high school. And I went to see her. And she told me that I never doubted you are good in passing the exam. But you love play basketball so much more than your algebra, all right? And all you have to do is to be quiet and you'll pass it, right? And I did. And another friend of mine, my classmate, also flunked it. Many years later, we both went back to see her and told her how much we appreciate that being flunked, because that stimulated our inner capacity to become a good student. My friend was a PhD in biological engineering. I was a PhD in mathematics. And since then, every year we go back to Taiwan, we have a reunion with her. And it was the greatest joy in learning from her. When I was a graduate student, I worked for Professor Van Foster, a very famous pioneer in artificial intelligence. But he also was a great magician. Indeed, he told me that when he graduated from university, he had a hard decision to make, to become a professional magician or to become a physicist. Well, finally, he chose to become a physicist, right? And the lesson he taught me most is to care for life so much and the courtesy he had. One time he came in the office where 4 of us share an office. He knocked on my shoulder and said, "Ray, come with me." So I rushed out with him and didn't close the door. And he stopped and walked over to the door and gently closed it. He taught me a great lesson about treating life. My thesis advisor, Professor David Muller, was a physicist, mathematician, and computer scientist. And as all of the students working, PhD students I know of, working for their professors, they all have a specific assignment because the professor is working on some project, or professor wants them to work on the things the professor is interested. David never tell me what I should work on. In fact, I changed my thesis topic 3 times, and he never complained. All right. He was like a father to me, just to want to make sure that I'm on the right track. He does not tell me what to do, but he might give me a hint if I am stuck. So he was like a father to me, and all of his students, he provided meaning for all of the students, just like the other 2 teachers of mine. as a gift from my teacher, so my own teaching philosophy is that try to bring out the potential of each student. I praise their strength and suggesting improvement. So in my exam, for example, I have never have a closed book exam. Student can bring any book into the exam room they want to, because the test is not to test their memory. And the final exam I usually give is the take home, so that allow the student to have time to think, to synthesize what they have learned. And my PhD student, I never told them what they should work on, just like Professor David Murdoch taught me. And I'm providing them 3 to 5 years of time to find themselves. And I normally also provide them assistantship, research assistantship. Luckily, my research funding usually do not have a specific requirement. And that was very fortunate, right? I'd like to share a couple more things about my student. My last student, PhD student, my comment, before I left Texas, went on to a trip of interview just about his thesis. I told him his thesis is okay, all right? Some polishment needed, but major point are fine. So he went down to visiting 18 places, including the top university and the top industrial research lab, like Bell Lab or IBM Lab. He got 18 offers. He's the only student of mine that got all the offers, from places he visited. I was very proud of him. And as an example, he did his thesis all by himself. He came up with his own idea, and he worked on all the details. Occasionally, my job is to criticize him. So I was very happy for him. When we came to the CTDB, we were teaching the 10th grader. Priscilla and I teach 10th grader. So, so in order to facilitate their own potential, we asked them whether they want to be a female or to really want to make a contribution. After many discussions, and they decided they can write a book. The class was very small, only 4 students. And so after some more discussion, they decided to write a book, how to get into the university of you want, all right? And now they're only 10th grader, and they want to write a book teaching other people how to get into a university. But they did. They did a lot of research, and on their 11th grade, they begin to write a book by themselves. By that time, we were not teaching them, but they continued. By the time they're 12th grader, they published the book. And guess what? The 11th grader were so enthusiastic. They do the publicity for them. They call other high schools to promote the book. They call bookstores. They call radio and TV stations to get some of them interviewed. All right. So some newspaper wrote about them, and but the most important thing is that they each got into the school they want to. Some because of financial capability, some because of other in any event, through the analysis of the research they did, actually several high schools actually ordered many copies of the book. All right, and so we feel that they create meaning for themselves. And this last picture was a note from a student I had more than 40 years ago, when the first class I taught at Penn State University, and it's a graduate seminar course, and she took it, and she found me last year and told me that she had been using the knowledge in that course throughout her 40-year career. And I thought what I taught was graph theory. And she said, because of this, she wanted me to be the honor guest to witness her to getting the outstanding alumni recognition at Penn State. Well, unfortunately, because of COVID, the thing get promoted. Finally, the Penn State have to send her the certificate of being the most outstanding alumni. So I guess in that sense, I have, through what I've done, I've created meaning for someone. And also now 40 years later, I feel it's very meaningful for me. I want to share with you that synchronicity it indeed happens in life because the universe is unfolding at all the moments, and we are co-participants in that unfoldment. And if we focus on something, and then things seems to miraculously happen. Throughout my career, I have found opportunity to move into new areas all the time. I was a PhD in mathematics, but when I go out to interview, I didn't go to any math department. I know I want to teach. So, but the computer science department just begins to open up. So I felt that's an opportunity for me. So I did it. And then when I went from Penn State to Texas, and there was a new assistant professor from Wisconsin, who was who was next door to my office. And he shared with me about the engineering of software, all right, which we never talk about because at that time, it's just at the beginning. All right. And I felt so interested, so I switched from a theoretical computer science into software engineering. And I become the editor-in-chief of the IEEE Transactions on Software Engineering. And later on, I moved to transdisciplinary education and research because that is a new area opened up. So that give you a flow about that if you have your eyes open and if you really desire something and the universe and you will link up. Another example, my wife Priscilla and I have been practicing energy healing while we were in Texas. And one time she was in Taiwan because she fell and she went back to Taiwan to be cared by our energy healing's teacher's mother. All right. So we then I went back to Taiwan and take her to Thailand for a couple of weeks of vacation to heal. So during that time in Thailand, we were then talking about why don't we create a healing center so we can provide service to more people. And the question is, where? So we dream about, how about Hawaii, all right? And I was imagining that to have 25 acres by the beach in Hawaii, and so that it provides a perfect environment for healing. And of course, that was a dream. And but we were very serious because we went ahead, designed all the details of the healing center. But we have no idea when and how we're going to do that, or where the money will come from. And when we come back to Taiwan, and my energy healing teacher called me one day that I have a friend coming back to visit. He's from Hawaii. Why don't we join us for lunch? So I went, and while we were having lunch, I was telling this visitor from Hawaii, said, I have this ideal about developing a healing center. Of course, I don't know whether I can afford to get 25 acres by the beach. And so this friend said, well, this sounds really great. By the way, I have 200 acres in Hawaii, in Honolulu, but it's not by the beach, but it's just across the street. The ocean is just across the street. And if you're interested, I can give you 5 acres to start, because this is an interesting project. And indeed, Priscilla and I went to Hawaii, and the place is really beautiful. And but then after staying there for a week, I found it very boring, because you drive 3 hours, you go through the whole island, and so we decided not to pursue that anymore. But the idea remained that we want to create a community of like-minded people. So we began to search in Austin to find such a place. And then, of course, we come to visit Tama Masin in CTDB. And one time we come here, we just say, well, this is the place. This is the place where like-minded people live, right? So we come here, we try it for 9 months, and we decide to move to CTDB. I need to talk fast because I many, but maybe I can share this. There's one more story, then we can conclude my presentation. This is the picture here is the University of Texas at Austin, and this is I guess 1975. I was 36, and here's a building. My office is right here in this corner, and I was promoted to be full professor, as well as to become the chairman of the department. And I told my elders, I said, I'm very happy you promoted me, all right? But I know nothing about administration. I've never done any administration work. So I don't think I will do a good job nor am I really interested in doing it. But my older colleague told me that he said, we really want to build up this department, but we don't know how. You say you're not interested, but maybe you can find some way to do it. We have no idea. All right, but so we would like you to try it. Reluctantly, I accepted. Then I asked, okay, what do you mean to make improvement? He said, well, we want to be one of the top ranking department in the country. At that time, UT Austin's about, our department was ranked about near 20, all right, in the higher teens. And I didn't know what it would take to build a top department. So I said, okay, I try. So I decided to look at the top department, like Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, and others. And so I said, okay, all right, we want a good department. We need to have good professor and good student. So our admission standard for graduate student was 3.0, grade point average. And I raised it to 3.5, right? Which is not quite the top, school, like MIT and Stanford, but it's close, all right? And I also made a statement to my colleagues. When we hire new professors, we only want the person who is in the top 10 category in his or her age group. Well, it's an easy statement to make. Guess what? By the end of first year, I have no student and no faculty. Because the student who would have come to UT Austin could not make it, all right? Because we just raised the standard. The student we like to come, them to come, they don't want to come. And of course, we cannot compete with those schools in getting faculty of the top 10 quality. At the same time, we have 7 assistant professors in line for promotion to be associate professor. And since, in my mind, at least the 6 out of 7 does not qualify to be the kind of department we want to be, so I turned all of them down. And by the end of first year, we have no new student, no new faculty. I'm totally in the bind, all right? But so I have let 7 young professors go. So, but to find the people for teaching is relatively easy. All I have to do is to recruit people from industry to come and teach a course. And they love to do that. But what do I do with the situation? Right? None of my senior colleague knows what to do. And also they didn't expect I just go make the big movement like that. Because my thinking was very naive. You want me to build a department like that? I just set center that way, but of course, we're not there. So what I did was that since I have money in hand, because I have 7 professor salary, so I want to establish a distinguished speaker series. And I start to call a couple of people like Marvin Minsky at MIT, who's the top guy in AI. I called Marvin and told him my desire. And Marvin said, well, you know, Ray, I like to go, but let me check my calendar. And I get back to you. After 1 week, he didn't get to me, and I get the message was clear, he's not coming. And I think other people will be like that too. Now, what do you do? So finally, I decided I write a letter to 12 top computer scientists in the world, inviting each of them to come for 2 weeks and pay them well. All right. And by sending a letter out with all their names on it, I said, I'm not going to invite anybody else except you 12 people. Well, 9 people showed up, accepted my invitation. What I found is that good people wants to be with good people. All right. So I sent the publicity out to all the department, computer science department in the country, and we kick off. The next year, I have people from industry to teaching. We don't have enough students. That's okay, and but just a few weeks after the school starts, I begin to get calls from other computer science, well-known computer scientists. Ask me, Ray, are you going to have this lecture series next year? If you do, I'd like to participate. And as a result of the people who come to our department of this well-known computer scientists, and as a result of communicating with them on my desire, and as a result of faculty, that getting acquainted with them, they all think we have pretty good department. So they begin to advertise for us. Some of them even send their students to us the following year. And by the end of the second year, we have recruited some very nice faculty members. By the end of third year, it's a bumper crop. I mean, we have people, because for young professors, I told them, we're going to be in the top ranking. And you have a chance to be the star, all right? And so we're able to persuade some of them not going to the top school, but coming to UT Austin. I also offer them, summer research fellowship so they can do anything they want. I provide them the research funding because I've had extra money and with the 7 professors. All right. So this way, by the end of 4th year, we were ranked number 9. And this is a story that I have been telling other people, like the 10th graders we taught. Never be afraid that your aim is to look too high, but make sure you devote your 100% of the effort to help making it possible. I have to go a little faster because time is getting short. I am very, very lucky to have met many meaning makers in my life. Some of the best in the world. And I like to just mention a few of them without going into detail. The first one is Dr. Katie Lee. Dr. Katie Lee basically was the person who made the Taiwan's economic miracle happen, right? And but in talking with him, or even when I visit his home in Taiwan, when he was still the prime minister, he was the Minister of Economics and Finance. And his home is a 40-year-old Japanese old building, right? Government provided in okay condition. And but he is the one who tirelessly helped Taiwan economic miracle happen. Then after he retired, he tirelessly promoted. By that time, in the mid-80s, Taiwan so well off, people spending money and without social ethics. So he promoted the 6th ethical code, other than the traditional 5 Chinese ethical code, to make sure Taiwanese are not blindly follow money only, right? So I set up an award after his name, all right? Of course, he was the first one to be awarded. This is Mr. Philip Yong, who was the legend now in Singapore. He is the one who makes Singapore's economic miracle happen. So the second award was given to Philip. And I said, well, I told him, you come to our international conference, we'll give you an award. And Philip said, no. Katie Lee is my idol. I want the award, the Katie Lee Award, to be given by Katie himself. So, all right, in order to accommodate him, we set up a special ceremony for Katie to give Philip the Katie Lee Award. So anyway, I understand that the award is continuing in Taiwan until last year. My friend asked me, are you coming to the Katie Lee Award ceremony? I said, no, I don't even know there is. There is one because the award was set up within a professional organization, not given by Taiwan. Anyway, that's Katie Lee. But I don't want to spend more time on this because I like to touch upon others before you have questions. But let me just it's very difficult to pick. Let me just pick Herb Kelleher as a example. Herb was the founder, co-founder, and the CEO of Southwest Airlines. One time I visited him. I had a 1-hour appointment with him to talk about Southwest Airlines. And after we talked for 4 hours, I looked at my watch. I said, Herb, I'm sorry, I have to get back to Austin, but I'll visit you again. So Herb said, okay, I take you to the airport. So we walked down and he drove me to the airport. And Love Field is very close to the Southwest Airlines headquarters. Then he parked the car in the front door. He said, look at the watch. He said, Ray, you still got 10 more minutes. Let's talk more. All right. So this is the kind of person I met in my life, many of them, all right, that there is no self. In fact, the whole Southwest Airlines, when he was the CEO, was so successful because he created the notion of whole person concept. If you're an employee of the Southwest Airlines, you are in the family. You are a whole person. You are not just AR to be in Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines consider you 24-hour member. All right. So if a employee family have problem, everybody rushes in. And if your family has really severe issues, relatives visiting the family, Southwest Airlines, if you take Southwest Airlines, the trouble is free. All right. So this whole person concept is phenomenal. And you see, if you look in the back in the Southwest Airlines, this is in the lobby. The lobby and the hall, there's no, unlike the other big corporation I walk in, they have marbles, they have, expensive art. Southwest Airlines hallway is lined up with the employee's family picture. It's a family, all right? So while he was the CEO, they don't have any labor union problem because when he negotiates, he brings his books in. He let you see the he let you see the books, all right? He encouraged you to have union, but he said it has to be here. The company have to make money to support you guys, and so the negotiation usually is one, very soon. They had only 1 day of strike, all right, a strike, but it's what was done in 1 day. And that's how Herb is, all right, to be a whole person. I really feel very bad about not sharing the two other great people that were meaning makers. This is my good friend, George Aronia Kosmosky. George was a pioneer entrepreneur, and he was co-founder of, I forgot it, the Teledyne, which is a conglomerate consisting of many high-tech companies. All right, he has about 100 companies under Teledyne, and then he came to he went to University of Texas as his, dean of business, and made that school totally well known. All right, his whole philosophy is shared prosperity. All right, he's a billionaire, but he wants to share it. How did he do it? He looked at that time there were three, city like the Silicon Valley, all right, the Palo Alto, the Boston, and the North Carolina triangle. And each of them take about 30 minutes to build up to where they are. And George wants to make Austin the fourth such city, but he wants to take it half the time, 15 years. And indeed, he made it. In 15 years, Austin become the fourth such city. And today, Austin probably outshines Silicon Valley already, because it's many. I can't go into detail about how he did it, but it's phenomenal. And finally, I want to touch John Wooden, one of the best basketball coaches in the world. And he was considered the greatest basketball coach last century. And I can't go into detail, but this quote is phenomenal in not only for basketball, but for any person, any organization. He says, success is peace of mind. That is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming. And this is sort of like psychologist Maslow's self-actualization, all right? But I won't have time to get into it. But anyway, the people of this kind, they are the meaning maker. George created meaning for people in Austin. Herb Kelleher created meaning for all the Southwest Airline employees. And Katie Lee created meaning for residents in Taiwan. And John Wooden created meaning for almost everyone. Though we are not players, but we learn how to behave to become also a meaning maker through his teaching. I want to go back to Marilyn's 5 stages of journey from I to we. And I want to shorten it to 3 because the 3rd and 4th stage in Marilyn's thing actually apply to the 3 stages. All right, you need guidance and assistance. Right? And this also derived from a poem in Chinese, which I translate into English, right? And which reads like, west wind howling, green trees dying. Quietly last night, a new season began. On a tall loaf, I alone sermon, bends and hollows, roads full of surprises. Close to lose to wear, yet I have no regrets. Body weathered and frail, but for you, I won't fail or you. I search for the way through 1,000 clouds and towns. Suddenly, hanging loose, looking around, you were in my shadow all along. This is by the modern Chinese poet, well, a few decades ago, Wang Guowei. All right. From that, I'd like to use that to express authenticity as the 3 stages. All right. And authenticity, to me, a person being authentic means that he is in touch with his inner wisdom, compassion, and make a commitment to serve people around him or the world, as Professor Clay Brown mentioned. And from that, you can say what does it mean to be wisdom, to have wisdom and compassion and commitment. But the outer expression of that authenticity, I group into sort of action, all right? Because your inner transcendence allow you to act, all right, outward. And I can summarize this as do the right thing, do things right, and change before it becomes necessary. Unfortunately, I won't have time to get into detail in making explaining this, but I synthesize this from our speakers, 13 speakers sharing as well as other references. So I think the post 3 stages is in sync with this. And in terms of do what I love what I do what I do. When you get to this stage, you made commitment to whatever comes your way, as long as it doesn't in discord with your value and your purpose, right? So to me, the path to become a meaning maker is first you have to have inner transcendence. Inner transcendence in the way of breaking your self-limiting assumptions, like we shared before. And as you, how do you transcend? Because your conscious level reaching to a higher level. All right. And as Albert Einstein pointed out, we cannot solve our problem using the same thinking we created. We have to go to a higher level of consciousness. In order to look at the problem, we create a lower conscious level, come up with a holistic solution. And then, as Professor Claire Brown pointed out, in the end, the I to we is like interest net in the sense we are all connected. Interest net, in fact, is a hologram. You take any part out, you cut it, you still have all the information there. And how do you express interest net? Interest net means compassion, right? Because we are, I'm in you, you are in me. Anytime you change, I change too, because the change in each of the bulbs reflects on everybody else, any else. So the universe is continuing unfold. And for those of us who are open, we can participate in that unfoldment, not become to participate in the infinite possibility, and within which we choose a few, and then we go with the flow, with that unfoldment. And this is a poem by an English poet, William Blake. I sometimes thought he must have read the Buddha's text, right? Hua Yan Jing. Here is the way he expressed it. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in a now. So that is, to me, the quest for the meaning of life. All right, the quest to become a meaning maker is to continuing breaking our self-limiting assumption and melt it into the unfoldment of the universe and serve the people around us and serve the world. As a closing remark, I'd like to share with you a poem that is a tribute to my cultivator, all right? Because I think living with a person for decades or raising your children, it's a holy it provides a lot of meaning, at least to me, all right, and to all the people involved in this intimate world. So I like to now read my tribute to my co-cultivator as a closing remark for this evening. It reads, much can be omitted, such as language, time, body, and so forth. When an old couple are still deeply in love, the shadow of their pair is very long, covering more than half a century. But the cup of hot chocolate continues to be delivered to a wrinkled hand. Without a trace, a coat is laid on top of the back of the midnight. Can't answer what is best, nor describe what is most beautiful. But the deep meaning shared between them has melted into their sweet glances and laughter. Thank you very much. I wish you bon voyage to your journey of meaning making. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, wonderful talk. I want to say, to explain what cultivator is. People may not know. It's a translation from Chinese, right? 同修 means wife. Means wife. So in case you don't know what Dr. Yeh was talking about the last poem, he was talking about his wife, Priscilla. So it's a code.
Yeah, thank you.
So, people have any questions? Can type in the chat box. So,
no, there's no question.
Yeah, thank you for you. Yeah, you're certainly a very brave person. you try all different frontiers and with great success. Now you are still in a visionary, and anything you touch, you can turn the stone into a gold.
Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I can just make an announcement this time, and if you have questions, you can still type after the announcement. We can come back here and to ask Dr. Yeh questions. So I just want to make an announcement for next week. And so the forum on the quest for meaning of life ended today. So for the next couple of weeks, actually, we have two physics professors coming to share with us some physics. And both are from Taiwan. So they are speaking in Mandarin. And this is the time for the English simultaneous translation. We have the Chinese simultaneous translation for the last 7 talks. So now it's turned the other way around. And next week is Dr. Zhao Ben Chao. This actually is my university classmate. And he is an earth scientist. He's going to talk about the water, the circulation of water on the earth, because we have lots of problems with water, right? Either not enough for drought or flood. And he's going to talk about the water. And just briefly, he got his PhD from UC San Diego, the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, PhD in Earth Science, and worked at the NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Then he went back to Taiwan, became a Dean of Earth Science in the National Central University, 中央大学. And now he's a distinguished researcher at the Institute of Earth Sciences, Academia Sinica, 中央研究院. So that I think he's giving us a very nice talk. I just want to point out this is our from Buddhist point of view. Let me see if I can. Want to find a pointer. This is usually we know this the Shimisan Sumeru Mountain, and this is a world. And these are the heavens, but on the earth we see this is the earth. Literally means earth wheel and go wheel, and usually we think underneath the earth is all solid, right? Or some plasma. Interesting enough, in the Buddhism, there's a water wheel. There's a there are water underneath this solid. And interesting enough, now the scientists found out there are water underneath the earth. So this is what the Dr. Chow is going to about. In the solid interior, water plays an important role. And also its plays a particular area is dynamic earthquake occurrence. So it's kind of interesting. We'll next week, and I think we can learn more from a science point of view. Okay. So that's what I want to say. And after that, we have a cosmologist. This is another PhD in physics. It's going to the cosmology. Okay, so next week is going to be the Earth, and the following week we'll see the heavens. So from 天地都包括在内, we'll cover the heaven and the earth. Okay, so and here it's any questions for Dr. Yeh?
Let me see.
The last one, say that looking back at the age 84, do you see that your understanding of meaning of life has changed over time? And any lesson learned that you want to teach us so that we can avoid making the same mistake?
Well, it's a very good lesson. You know, looking back in life, I made a lot of mistakes. You know that, but I think that's inevitable because making mistake is one way to understand life. All right, because when I try new things, like moving from theoretical computer science into software engineering. I remember that the president of ACM, another professional society for computers, and one time in a meeting, come over to me and told me, with many people around us, face to face, and say, Ray, I want to let you know there is no such thing as software engineering. And of course, software engineering become a big deal, a couple of years later. And my conference was attended usually by 1,000 to a couple thousand people. All right. So I don't believe that that there's no mistake. You can also think of it from a different viewpoint. In my story, that my chairman at the end of first year in my chairmanship, I would many other people would think I made a terrible mistake. All right, you're stupid, you're crazy, you cut 7 people, you didn't get anyone. But I think meaning makers are those people who have a conviction that coming from inside of them, and they move forward regardless what the difficulties lies around. I think the key is the only mistake you can make is that your action is not in sync with your inner voice. In that case, you might keep your job, you might get a promotion, but you are not happy. Okay, is there another one?
Another question. How do we reconcile making money in business with being compassionate to others?
Well, I think there's nothing wrong making money, all right? As long as you are holding your basic ethical line, that you are not incongruent with your inner voice. And if you look at Southwest Airlines again, for a long time they were the money maker. All right, they make more money than others, but not because they try to do something unethical, but they provide low fare and high quality. How can you beat that? But low fare and high quality are very difficult. All right, so nothing wrong with making money if you are not in conflict with your inner voice. I had a nephew. After graduation, he was working Wall Street, making lots of money. After 3 years, he wants to pursue his real interest. And he went to musical school for 2 years and become a musician. Well, the money he made, especially at the beginning as a musician, is far, far from the money he made in Wall Street. But he has meaning. He's much happier. And I think that's the balance we have in life. We have the balance between one hand, the practical consideration, the other is what makes us think we're worth living this lifetime around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yeh. I think it's about time. It's past 9 o'clock already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I must say that this whole forum is organized by Dr. Yeh himself. I didn't help at all, so I don't get the credit at all. So that's totally his own work. And all the speakers, I think I only know a couple of them. The monastic I know, but not other people. Those are all Dr. Yeh's invitation, his old friends. I don't know those people. So anyway, so we all dedicate merit then. And so I think we are attending Chinese today. 愿以此功德，望见佛净土，当报四重恩，下济三途苦。若有见闻者，悉发菩提心。尽自以报身，同生极乐国。We have pause. In respect to the Venerable Master, Well, thank everyone and thank Dr. Chen Yu's translation. 阿弥陀佛。